walk us through sort of a day in the life in otolaryngology head and neck surgery?
Yes, otolaryngology. I've heard both pronunciations, so
Mm-hmm.
I think either way you're good. OHNS is sort of we could, if you want to refer to that moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my shifts, I'm actually Monday to Friday, 7:30 to 3:30, so it's a great 8-hour work day. I arrive always about 45 minutes early, and for me that's key. It's allowed me to, this is where I work on sort of my outside projects. So I'll work on my podcast, or I'll read some journal articles, or I'll write some journal articles, um, and just give myself about 45 minutes to sort of start my day. And then I have that awesome teaching for an hour between 7:30 to 8:30. So I'm very, very fortunate to have that. And really the residents or staff will give lectures. So it's a full 60-minute lecture in otolaryngology, which is fantastic. Um, and then at about 8:30 to 9ish, we sort of run the list. So I don't round with the residents. The residents start their rounds at about 6 a.m. I'm fortunate I get to stay in bed or come early, as I had said. And then after we run the list, then we sort of disperse. And then that's when the patient care starts for myself. So we try to get the residents to the operating room and or clinic as soon as possible. And the procedural care on the ward can be tracheostomy changes, decannulations, pulling any percutaneous drains, making orders, following up labs, replacing electrolytes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's sort of, let's say, between 9 and let's say about 11:30 or noon. And then, of course, putting out fires as they come. So when we have unstable airways on the ward, or not unstable, but if we have fresh tracheostomies on the ward, there's always things that can go wrong, desaturations, patients that require readmission to the ICU, or anything in that. So, of course, dealing with those acute issues as they arise. And then I try to get to clinic myself, sometimes maybe about 2 times a week. Otherwise, the ward is pretty demanding. And the resident team that I'm on, we only have 3 residents at a given time, and we have 2 hospitals that they operate on. So sometimes I find myself alone on the ward. So then it's sort of my role to, manage all those 20 to 30 patients, depending on how many we have. If there's time, I get to clinic, and if there's time, I also help the on-call resident. So one of those 3 residents is always on call, and of course there's a lot of issues during the day that they have to deal with, nosebleeds or tracheostomies or acute airways, things of that sort. So I actually serve as, I'm sort of the first contact point from the attending surgeon who takes all the consults from the emergency department, and our catchment area in Edmonton is huge. So we take patients from Northwest Territories, Yukon, British Columbia, basically anything west, I believe, of Winnipeg comes to us, and then anything east of Winnipeg goes to Toronto. And then I'm not really sure how the Winnipeg service acts, but those are sort of the 2 primary centers, in my understanding, in Canada. So the surgeon will contact me with any emerge consults that come, and then I have to sort of recognize how urgent it is, and then find the junior resident that's on call that day and alert them of the consult. And if I can get started on the consult while we're waiting as they're coming in through STARS, which is, I think it's the Ontario equivalent of the Team Orange helicopter transport. So that's sort of that. And then end of the day, I run the list again if I can, or if not, I send a little handover blurb via secured email. And then, I'm fortunate. My 8 hours is done, and I sort of get to go home.
Excellent. So it does sound like you do call during the hours that you are there, and then you don't do call on weekend or in the evenings, right?
No, and I wouldn't even say that I do. It's just sort of, if you picture like a medical student model who's learning with the resident, like I'm very happy to go start the consult. I'm very happy to pre-admit people as well. So no, I wouldn't even say that I'm involved on call. It's just, because I'm the continuity, it's so easy for that surgeon to just contact me, and then I disperse out the consult, as opposed to the surgeon having to be on top of the call schedule, which changes all the time with the residents anyways. So